With that, Bernadette.
Well, good morning, everyone. What a nice introduction. Thank you. So I thought it'd be nice to begin with taking a deep breath, because I know it took a lot to get here, Sunday morning in the snow. So taking a deep breath, let's take one all together. Let it fall out with a sigh. Just anything that you were doing before you got here, see if you can imagine that just falling away. And then anything else that's going to come after this, see if you can just let that fall away. And with your next breath in through the top of your head, bring in your full present self, however that means to you. Bringing in all of you through the top of your head. Letting everything else go. And I just want to acknowledge you for taking this time. This is an intentional space together, a sacred space. And it's so important, especially during these busy, crazy time that the world presents to us and the expectations that the world has of us. You're choosing something for you. And hopefully it is something nourishing. So maybe we could set that intention together, that this fills you up and gives you something that you need to go forth with maybe more strength, courage, energy, inspiration than you had when you walked in. So it's also kind of an auspicious time for me to be standing up before you, because in 6 days, as Tina mentioned, I'm going to be moving my family to Portugal. So what am I doing standing up here when I have boxes to pack? And, the reason I think is I wanted to say yes because it forced me to stay in my center and say, well, I can't go into complete hysteria because, I've got to walk the talk and not go into the stories and thoughts that can come up when we're making a huge change. So I'll talk a little bit more about that toward the end, but I just wanted to give you a little insight on that. And of course, solstice was yesterday. So today is the first day of more light coming in. So perfect timing also for us to gather together. And lastly, 17 years ago was the last time that I stood up here before this community, after my daughter was born on Mother's Day. So I also thought it was a really nice kind of bookend and completion for me, being a part of this community, and I used to live in Linden Hills. So again, honored to be here. So I wanted to talk about some stories about my journey of awakening. And I'm going to talk about that in 3 sections. The first one is clear, then connect, and then co-create. So we'll sort of weave through those. And in my experience, that's what it has felt like and looks like to me, that we spiral, kind of like an upward spiral through these 3 phases or processes: clear, connect, co-create. We'll start with clear, and I'll read you a short quote from Lubavitcher Rebbe, he's called, Lubavitcher, it's kind of hard to say, through Shifra Hendry. He was a Rebbe in our time, a rabbi, who died in the 80s, who actually passed along a lot of the hidden Kabbalistic teachings before he left the planet. It was sort of prophesized that was the time to reveal some of the deeper teachings that had only been passed down orally from rabbi to rabbi and through certain sages. And now, just like a lot of the indigenous cultures are doing that now, they're revealing a lot of these mysteries that have been, till we were ready, I suppose. So a lot of this information is being released onto the planet right now, as you may know. Simple quote, though, but he said that the purpose of all challenges and obstacles is to reveal the hidden miraculous powers of the soul. So for me, what that looked like was a lot of physical challenges. So that we're going back, started about 7 years ago with some adrenal fatigue. It was like my body was saying, we're not going down this path anymore. And you may know people in your life who have had weird physical symptoms. I don't know, maybe otherwise very healthy people, living the right lifestyle and doing all the right things, and yet their bodies, maybe they feel dizzy or having heart palpitations or not sleeping or rashes, all kinds of weird stuff. To me, that is part of the body helping us align with what our soul is here to do. Like adrenal fatigue is also known as sort of wrong path syndrome. So if you've ever had any of those kind of symptoms, feel free to ask me about that afterwards. So it was just another wake-up call to fine-tune and get on my path. So, and then about 4 years after that, I got this mysterious rash that started around my eyes, spread to my face, went all over my body, and no one could figure out what it was about. And I went through the whole routine, like diet, changing what you eat, and don't eat wheat, and don't eat dairy, and all the food restriction stuff, and all of that was very helpful in helping my body cleanse, and I don't think it was the whole picture. But it got to the point, though, it got so loud that I went to see all kinds of practitioners and finally someone helped me figure out that I was reacting to my house. So as we're walking through my house, muscle testing me, if you've ever heard of that, I found out I'm reacting to the floor, the ceiling, everything around me. And there's a lot of environmental toxins in our food and our environment. But again, I think that's part of it, but I think it's an internal awakening that's happening when suddenly our environment doesn't fit for us anymore. But within 24 hours of that news, I had to move out of my house. Didn't know where I was going to go, what I was going to do. As I was walking around picking up my belongings, I had to fit my whole life into a carry-on, a backpack, and a grocery bag. And I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, The Jerk, with Steve Martin. That's what I felt like, walking around, this ashtray, that's all I need, I'm going now, as my family's watching me, horrified, where is she, what's happening? What is happening to our mother? I have 2 daughters. This lamp, that's all I need. So there was that sort of going on. And then there was also, I noticed that it was Passover that day. And I had this sort of energetic feeling of the divine just sort of lifting me up and out. And that's sort of the message of Passover. One of the teachings is that I will take you out, I will lift you out. And that really means into another state of consciousness. So leaving my home really with no notice, with very few belongings, and fortunately a retreat center took me in. My friend said, I need to get myself a trailer home to live in on a retreat center, get away from my family for a while and take some time. But it really was a great challenge to step up and out. And I think our bodies will give us those signals if we're willing to listen. And what I discovered, I had a realization through all of that sometimes when we have physical challenges or even other challenges, we feel like a part of us is betraying us. Well, why is this happening to me? Why is my body not cooperating? And I realized that it's really not possible for our bodies to betray us. And of course, we know that intellectually, but to really get it, that all of it must be aligned for our highest good, or it wouldn't be happening. So I came up with this sort of affirmation. This body is perfectly aligned with my soul's highest desire to co-create with the divine. So if I'm having a weird symptom, it must be to alert me of something to wake up to. Same with any challenge, even if it's not a physical challenge. It must be happening in order to help me align to co-create the life that I want. So, and when we do that, a lot of times, what's at the core mostly for me, what I discovered, is limiting thoughts and beliefs. And you may be familiar with that phrase that's being thrown around, but it's these subconscious thoughts that run 95% of what is happening in our life. So it's the beliefs that were formed when we were very, very young. And we're not even aware that they're there a lot of the times. But we can be if we're just willing to look and shine the light on it. So for me, the limiting belief was that the world is not safe. On an unconscious level, I was running a program that it wasn't really safe. And so, of course, after a while, that message starts to get interpreted and then played out in my life. So the antidote to that is, it's perfectly safe. And it's okay for me to be held by the divine. And I don't need to figure it all out myself. And also I had to let go of a lot of doing and action, and I had to quit my job and readjust my work. And there was something about the more I do, the more I'm loved. So a lot of us kind of have come to believe that the busier I am, the more that I do, I will get more love and approval. When the truth is, I am enough. And you are enough. Simply because you exist. It's not based on how much you do, how much we accomplish. We exist, and therefore we are more than enough. So getting that was a really important piece for me to reprogram in order to really create the life that I wanted. So what appears like suffering, ultimately for me, always pointed me toward a higher awakening. So let's just take a moment to focus for yourself. Take another deep breath. And just notice a challenge maybe lately with your body or in your life. And then just say this to yourself: this body or situation is perfectly aligned with my soul's highest desire to co-create with the divine. And then just ask yourself, what do I need to know about this? What do I need to know about this? And without grasping for the answer right now, just take a deep breath and then let it go, knowing that the answers will come to you. And if you need to ask again tonight or tomorrow or the next day, do that until you get those answers, because you have them and they're waiting for you to want to know. Okay? So now we'll move right into the connect section. Not section, but the process of this spiral. So embodying spirit for me begins with clearing out the limiting beliefs, clearing physical toxins if necessary, anything that's not aligning for us. And then it involves a daily or regular process of connecting. And connecting just means creating space inside of us, just like we're doing here, right here and now. Emptying ourselves so that we can connect to what informs us, our inner guidance and wisdom. And when we do that, a divine blueprint is accessed. Something inside of us that knows exactly how to do this journey awakens. But if we don't take the time to regularly quiet our focus, you could say horizontally, out into the world, and shift it to a vertical, sort of like a column, then it just stays quiet and dormant, and we're not really able to access it. So all it takes is really noticing and stopping and pausing. And in the Jewish tradition, a lot of my studies are in Kabbalah, even though I was raised Irish Catholic and have studied yoga. So I draw a lot from that wisdom. And Shabbos is the Sabbath on Saturday. It's that 24-hour cycle from sunset on Friday to sunset on Saturday, but you can do it any time. The energy is the same. And I do that every week, where I take the 24 hours just to create space. I still engage. It's about being with friends and family, but it's just a time of withdrawing from computer and phone and the things that normally take my energy, so that I can strengthen that vertical connection and that inner connection. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to take a little bit more of that space, more consciously. And we'll start by just taking another deep breath. This time, see if you can feel your heart center a little bit more. So breathe a deep breath right into your heart, as if there's some nostrils right in the center of your heart. And we invite this feeling of heaven on earth to be present right here and now. Feel your heart opening as much as feels comfortable to you. And then imagine that you're taking any burdens, any worries or concerns, and together we're going to lay those on the altar like an offering. Lay your burdens down. Take a rest. Hand them over to something greater than your ordinary awareness. So together we lay our burdens down on the altar. And the intention for Shabbos and for any moment that we do this could be, all is healed, all is forgiven, and all is complete. So try to imagine that. What would it be like if all is healed, all is forgiven, and all is complete? It's already done. Even if it's hard to imagine, just make it up. It's all done already. You get to rest. Let it go. Beautiful. So whether you do it for 24 hours or you do it for 2 minutes, doesn't matter. The energy is the same. And you can do that any time. You can switch your focus from horizontal to vertical. You can hit the pause button. Okay. So now we'll move on to, now that I'm regularly sort of paying attention, shining the light on my thoughts and what I'm creating, and I'm connecting with what sources me, what I discovered is that frees me up to really co-create the life that I want. So I'll read a quote from Simran Singh. Was anyone here a few weeks ago when she came through town? Yeah, I remember seeing you. Great. She's awesome. She is a single mother who is traveling the country somewhat spontaneously. I mean, she has a schedule, but everything else is really loose, not planned out. It's an exercise in completely trusting that the universe will provide what she needs when she sets in motion what her heart desires. And so she didn't know how she was going to travel, how she was going to pay for it, and an RV showed up for her to travel in, and all the right people showed up, and the music showed up, and what she's saying is that pretty much is what happens. I mean, the hardest part, I think, is getting clear on what we want. And that's why I wanted to talk about clear and connect, because without that, our co-creating gets very haphazard, because we really don't know what it is, what our heart's desire is. For me, that was the hardest part. I can do lots of things, and I've done 1,000,001 things. And by the worldly standards, they might look pretty cool. But inside, it was just, it wore me out, obviously. My adrenals said, we're done. You've got to figure it out, girl. Focus on what it is you want to do, because it's just, I can't sustain it from that other consciousness anymore. So Simran says, in that moment, you take that scary step into the unknown of the heart's desire. You initiate your magic into surrounding and holding the space, energetically placing the call and strands that draw like resonance to you. And the beauty is you don't have to know who, how, what, or even when. You need only know it is done. So as soon as you set your heart's desire in motion, in your awareness, it is as if it's already done. And now all you need to do is show up. Now that sounds really kind of outside of our ordinary thinking. And believe me, it's still work. I mean, on some level. I mean, I'm doing all these wonderful things, and I'm showing up for this big move, and it will challenge you, but it will help you wake up as well. Like I can't say I'm free of all challenges moving my family to Portugal. But it's much easier than doing it the old way, and I am getting tons of support, like she is talking about. Things are showing up and working out. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that story now. So at some point I stopped dreaming, you could say. And I was so focused on healing healing my body, healing my life, and sort of the Virgo in me got on that task. Let's kind of take care of these things that need to be taken care of, which involved controlling my environment. Frankly, everything I put in my mouth. Some of you may have experienced some of this stuff. Where I lived, everything. I had to control everything. So in a sense, I had some great lessons in that about surrender and self-discipline. That was a necessary part of the path, kind of like an initiation. But it wasn't the whole picture, thank God, because I really don't want to live in that restricted place. It's necessary, but it's not the whole story. And I think sometimes we don't get to hear the other part of the story. Well, what happens after that? So what I had kind of allowed myself to do was to start dreaming again. For 25 years, I have dreamed of going back to France. I wanted to live there, yes, but I didn't even allow myself to travel there. I really put that one on the shelf, even though I had lived there in my early 20s, felt so alive and connected, and a lot of us have these dreams that we think, oh, that was just for when I was in my 20s or whatever, or that part is over. But it really, really is part of my heart's desire. And oddly enough, what brought it up was sort of what you could say is a crisis, which often happens. And my husband's work started changing, and we needed to kind of regroup and say, we're going to need to downsize. We're probably going to need to move out of this new beautiful house that I got that was, like I call my spa house, that we ultimately got from that rash situation. So that was all a great thing. But now it was time to let go of the spa house. And the cool thing about it is I was really able to just stay present with the story of what was happening. Like, instead of reacting to it, I could just say, okay, wow, I wonder, what great thing is going to come from this, which after you've been through enough challenges and you see that good does come, you're kind of able to start to do that. And I thought, look, if we're going to make this big change, why not get clear on what it is that we really, really want? Instead of just jumping to something, let's really take time. So I created this worksheet, forever creating. I love doing worksheets and workshops and that kind of thing. So I do it on myself as the guinea pig. And I called it place your order. So it's like, we're always told you have to get into a lot of detail with your dream in order to manifest it. So it's like placing your order at a restaurant. You got to give as much detail as you can. So I just listed a bunch of questions for myself to answer, along the veins of what do I really want? How do I want to share my light with others? And what delights me? And I'm telling you, I wrote that down, and within a week, just about a week, it was like the whole universe started to conspire to bring my dreams toward me. And that can be scary, right? Our first reaction isn't always, yay, I might move to France or Portugal as it ends up. That is funny that when we start to get what our heart desires, it's funny that reaction that we can have, because we're used to, it's sort of like, the devil Well, at least I know what this is about. And our brain does not like the unknown in terms of how we've been raised and programmed so far. I do believe that there is a collective consciousness shift that is happening, which is awakening other aspects of our consciousness, of literally our brains. You could say more of the right brain awareness, which is very comfortable in the unknown, creating with the divine, you could say, in my words. But our left brain, which most of us are left brain dominant, even if we're highly creative, it's not about that. It's just sort of how our culture works, much more linear, how we relate to time, how we relate to safety is a lot about the known. And when we start to step into the unknown, the first thing that is triggered is fear. So it's very normal. Know that if that comes up, it's very normal. For me, it involved my daughters, especially. That was the first thing that came up. Well, oh my gosh, yeah, I may get the life of my dreams, but now I've got to pull them out of school, and oh my gosh, what if my daughter hates me for causing her to leave her friends, and just a lot of those fears came up. And I moved around a lot growing up. And so it triggered all those fears of moving and leaving and that kind of change. And so it forced me to heal that piece. Again, the circumstances will conspire to heal anything that is out of that alignment, that just wants you to be here, wants you to do your work, your pleasure, your life in pure delight. And anything that is pulling on that will, life will, if you're willing, will bring that up for you to see. So there I had to heal all the resentment I had toward my parents for moving me so many times. And heal that, really you could call it a trauma, small with a small t. Anything that caused stress is a trauma, a stress on our bodies, and we hold on to that until we consciously clear it. It will stay in our system, in our program, in our energy field. So it took a lot of courage to step into something that really went against some beliefs of if I win, someone else loses. That's another old program, limiting thought or belief, that we all have been conditioned to believe. If I win, someone else loses. It's like we're raised with competition. We're raised with sports. That's how it works, win, lose. And even if we're so super enlightened and we get it, there's something in our unconscious that still doesn't get it. We're still comparing ourselves to others. We're still, think we're not doing it right or enough. And it's always, almost like a whale who uses sonar to know where it is. We sort of do that, and I know I have done it. I used to just sort of determine who I was by bouncing off of what was happening around me and others around me. It's sort of like what we all do in high school, but it never goes away. It's sort of there unconsciously. So it forced me to start to look at those programs that were running and to clear them. And a friend of mine, they had, this beautiful group of women that gathers together periodically. We gathered last weekend as a send-off gathering. And one of my friends came up to me and she said, delight yourself first and others will be delighted. And I said, please write that down for me because I won't remember and I really need to hear that again, that is true. And it is turning out already. We're not there yet, and there's going to be a lot that we're going to need to go through when we leave in 6 days, and I know that as a family, but I can already see the blessings, for my children. I can see glimpses that it's going to be okay, and that some of the things weren't perfectly aligned with them, with their schools and so forth, that maybe we wouldn't have seen. I was living in the story, the fantasy of what I thought it was and what I wanted it to be. Of course, we do that, especially for our children. We want it to be something, but to just be with what is and let it be what it is can be sometimes very different than the story we tell in our heads. So another core limiting belief that for me had to get unearthed in order to move towards such a big life change was I must be in control. I'm sure no one here has that one. Has anyone ever felt that? I must be in control. It is linked to the fear of the unknown piece, but it's deep. For me, when I looked at it, it went all the way back. Now, practitioners can help you with this, and sometimes you can get it in meditation, but if you want it, it'll come. The information will come. For me, I noticed it went all the way back to being a baby, growing up with big Irish family, 6 kids, a lot of chaos. That little baby got in her mind that she must be in control to feel safe, because everybody else seems out of control. So I was able to work with that and reframe that for her, and actually kind of through, EFT and some energy medicine, or just visualization if you're good at that, you can just take yourself out of that scene and create a new one. We can play in that energy field and create a new one. So I created a new scene for her out of that chaotic, scary place into some loving arms of my sister out in the yard, everyone's playing. And what I was able to do is, and we're all able to do, is kind of download a new memory, a new belief that is based in truth. Because a lot of those beliefs, they're based on false ideas, false notions. They're just not true. And awakening, what is it other than really waking up to what's not true and what is? And only we can know that, what's true for us. And we have some collective programs that we can help each other wake up to just by doing the work ourselves. So I must be in control had to go, because as this idea of moving started kicking up, I mean, not only the moving stuff I had to clear up, but my husband said, why can't you just let go? Why can't you just trust? That's what he said. Why can't you just trust? And this was in particular about looking at schools over there. And I said, because it's researchable. It's my only reaction. I can look it up online. I can't trust all that. I've got to try to find the information. And it was exhausting. Yes, everything is researchable. And that's a great tool and resource that we have. But man, we have so many other resources from this divine program and field that we live in that we can access anytime for that information. Boy, is it a lot easier. So the new belief is it's safe for me to let go. It's safe for me to trust. It's safe for me to be held in the loving arms of the divine. And that's true for all of us. And we don't need to figure it all out. And right around that time, I read something somewhere that said, the divine dwells in the unknown. So how about that? Wow, we're so afraid of the unknown, and yet the divine dwells in the unknown. I mean, my brain doesn't really get that, but something in my heart gets it, that it really is safe for me and for all of us to go into the unknown, whatever that is, what brings us joy. It really is safe, because that's actually where we're going to come alive. So we'll do a little closing exercise with that, but I'm just wondering if I need to say anything more about Portugal, about that story, since we have a little bit of time. Within just a few months of writing that place your order sheet, I did find myself packing to go on a scouting trip to France and to Portugal. My husband said we should have done a reality show, France versus Portugal, because he sort of wanted Portugal and I wanted France. And we did a good job of just staying available and present and letting ourselves be guided while we were there. And we met the right people at the right time, even all the way down to the right table, in the right spot, in the right restaurant. You know how those things happen? The more you notice those things, the more they will keep happening. And it really was enough for me to know, as we were sitting at this beautiful cafe and by a fountain in France, and I looked across from him and I just had tears in my eyes, and I said, I'm in heaven. Right now, I'm in heaven. Because we were in this town called Aix-en-Provence, which is, to me, like little Paris, because it's smaller and cleaner, but with all the big, beautiful arching trees and the fountains and all the things you would imagine. And I knew in my heart that he would do anything he could to support me in that dream. And that was really all that I needed. I could let it go then. And so when I let go, we really became clear that Portugal was really a better choice. It's more affordable, and they speak English, and we had some friends there, and it all pointed there. So when we put it out there, we don't know exactly how it's going to come about. So we do need to sort of, I was gripping tight, let me tell you. We would have these sort of exploratory conversations, and we had the whole map open. We're going to go to Ecuador, we're going to go here, what most serves us, what's most aligned for us. And honestly, in my mind, I was looking like I'm open, but in my mind I was going, yeah, and we're going to France. Yep, and we're going to France. Yep, you guys all do that discussion because we're going to France. I was just like, if I'm going to go through all this trouble, and I've been dreaming about this for so long, we're going to go where I want to go. That's that controlling part, I want to be in control. So it was a really sweet, sweet gift to let go of that. It's a lot of work to be in control and to try to control everybody, even if we're really good at it, we built up all these skills around that. It's exhausting. And I don't have the energy for that anymore. I only really have the energy to be aligned. I don't have the energy to try to control. But it happens over time as we go. These things come up and allow us to let go. So when I let go, I got live in Portugal and vacation in France. That's not a bad deal, right? So it's like the universe knows how to formulate it exactly in a way that will work for us. And that's why we need to let go of the details in a sense. Yes, we need to take action. Make that phone call, whatever it is. But I call it sort of the master logician is in charge, because I'm not a master logician. I mean, how on earth can I figure out, I mean, I can do research, but how can I figure out where they're supposed to go to school and who's supposed to meet who and where we're supposed to live, you know, all this stuff. It's really impossible, but it's not. Nothing is hard or difficult for the infinite, holy, eternal one. Nothing is hard or difficult for the infinite, eternal, holy one. So just take that in for a minute. Take a breath. So there is a master logician. I mean, it doesn't mean, you know, it's whatever your idea of that is, that there's just an intelligence that we are a part of, that we can access. Like, for example, even renting out our home to someone else. We're leaving not when our lease is up, but 6 months before. Like, I'm thinking, you know, at moments of doubt, you know, why don't we just wait? Why are we going now? And I would hear, no, you've got the call to go now. And someone was supposed to take it, and that fell through, and I started to think, gosh, I don't know. And right when I was sort of really asking for help again and doubting that, I had the thought, someone needs to be relocating here. That's how this is going to, because it's kind of a higher end kind of, you know, home and whatever. I thought, this is kind of a big deal, and to move over winter, who's going to move in January? And this thought came out of nowhere. It's going to be somebody who's relocating, just like us. I mean, because then you're kind of willing to take a risk and jump in, and the timing is weird and stuff. The next day, I'm on the phone with my girlfriend, and up pops an email. And it says, we are relocating from Washington, D.C., and we would love to rent your home. There it was. And we just laughed. And she's like, you better check to make sure it's real. It could be a scam. You know, I'm like, come on now. Really? You're going to really rain on my parade? You know? And so I thank her for that. She's my practical friend that grounds me in that way. But it turned out it was just perfect. And they're moving in the middle of January. So that's just an example of that master logician. My husband came in and he's like, oh, you rock so hard, you know, because I placed the ad right. I thought, how can I take credit? I placed an ad. I mean, really? I'm going to take credit for like finding this perfect family in Washington, D.C. who happens to be needing to move to Hudson, Wisconsin on January 24th. Yeah, I don't think I can really take credit for that. So it really, really puts things in perspective when those things happen. So just to wrap it up, I want to just emphasize that, you know, for me, it is moving to another country, and that's a pretty big deal. And it's giving me the opportunity to shed a lot of stuff, a lot of baggage that I don't really need to bring forward into my new life. But we're all creating a new life. So the move to another country is really a move to a new domain inside of ourselves, right? It's a shift in our consciousness, in our awareness, based on what's true, not based on what's false anymore. And this is our birthright. This is our time to actually get to experience that. So what I'd like to do is just do another closing meditation. So go ahead and close your eyes if you want to. You don't have to, whatever works for you. Get comfortable and just take another deep breath. In through your heart center and out. And then just ask yourself, what do I want? Not grasping for answers, you're just putting the question out there. What do I want? How do I want to share my light with others? What delights me? What brings me sheer delight? It could be something very small. Just imagine one small taste of that coming in closer to you, inside of you, even more, that feeling of delight. As if it's already done. And then imagine yourself stepping into that in your life a little bit more, whatever that might look like. Start with a small action, whatever that might be. As if it's already done. You're stepping into what delights you, calling it toward you. In that moment, you take the scary step into the unknown of the heart's desire. You initiate your magic into surrounding and holding the space, energetically placing the call in strands that draw like resonance to you. The beauty is you don't have to know who, how, what, or even when. You need only know it is done. Know that you are spirit in form. You are spirit embodied. It can be no other way. It is who you are. You are powerful beyond your imagination. Allow that truth to sink in. Say to yourself, I am spirit in form, or whatever word works for you. I am a creator. I am a co-creator. I have choice. I have power. It's easy for me to create the life of my dreams. Be spirit in form. That is who you are. So for our closing circle, let's go ahead and, of course, take another deep breath. In and out your heart center. And then imagine on your next exhalation that we're creating this beautiful wheel, which we are. And imagine in the center of the wheel is a light, and each of our strands of light from our heart center connecting like spokes on a wheel to that center of light. Acknowledging quite simply that we are enough, that we are worthy, that we are deeply loved, and we deserve to fulfill our heart's desires. We deserve to share who we are. We deserve to be nourished and filled up by each other. Remembering that we are always connected, no matter where we are. It can be no other way. We are sparks of the one. Feeling the strength of that connection. Set an intention for what you would like to receive, either for the rest of the day or the week or however far out you want to go. What would you like to receive? And allow the energy and power and strength of the group to support that. We support you. It is done. And let's end with a feeling of gratitude that it is done, that we are enough, that it can be easy, and we can do it in the way that feels right to us. We get to create it and make it up and play. So let's take another deep breath together. Woo! Amen! It is so. So for our closing circle, let's go ahead and, of course, take another deep breath. In and out your heart center. And then imagine On your next exhalation, that we're creating this beautiful wheel, which we are. And imagine in the center of the wheel is a light, and each of our strands of light from our heart center connecting like spokes on a wheel to that center of light. Acknowledging quite simply that we are enough, that we are worthy, that we are deeply loved, and we deserve to fulfill our heart's desires. We deserve to share who we are. We deserve to be nourished and filled up by each other. Remembering that we are always connected, no matter where we are. It can be no other way. We are sparks of the one. Feeling the strength of that connection. Set an intention for what you would like to receive, either for the rest of the day or the week or however far out you want to go. What would you like to receive? And allow the energy and power and strength of the group to support that. We support you. It is done. And let's end with a feeling of gratitude that it is done, that we are enough, that it can be easy, and we can do it in the way that feels right to us. We get to create it and make it up and play. So let's take another deep breath together. Woo! Amen! It is so.